5 hours. Grafovka Reservoir, Russia. The temperature is a bone-chilling -14 degrees Fahrenheit. A small 220-pound shadow is currently screaming across the surface of the river at an altitude of just 40 feet. A successful strike here won't just destroy a wall, it will physically sever the primary river supply lines for 3 Russian brigades currently fighting near Vovchansk. The global context of February 2026 is a powder keg. The United States and Israel have just launched Operation Epic Fury, a massive campaign against Iran that has already decapitated the IRGC leadership and targeted nuclear facilities. While Europe panics and Washington is bogged down in a potential 5-week escalation, Ukraine has decided not to wait for a permission slip. Kiev is moving to drown Russia's local command structure. 5:05 hours. The mist over the river channel has turned into a freezing gray wall. The drone swarm is currently navigating through a high-stakes tunnel of fog, with the lead operator feeling the 220-pound airframe bucking under localized wind shear, a sensation he describes as suddenly losing the weight of 2 school buses. At -14 degrees Fahrenheit, every degree of lateral drift is a battle against a total mechanical stall. Suddenly, the silence of the valley is shattered. A Rosgvardia infantry patrol positioned along the embankment catches the high-pitched whine of the electric motors. These aren't elite air defense units, but they are armed with DSHK 12.7mm heavy machine guns and high-intensity searchlights. White beams of light slice through the frozen mist, and a curtain of green tracer fire erupts from the shore. A 12.7mm round clips the auxiliary Decoys cable, and the operator's side monitor instantly flickers to static. The primary strike drone banks hard, dropping to just 15 feet above the water, nearly skimming the river ice. Sensing the breach, the Russian infantry begins frantically stringing anti-drone netting and steel cables across the narrowest part of the channel, a low-tech trap designed to decapitate any drone flying too close to the surface. But the Ukrainian team is already executing a counter-move. They deploy a relay drone that releases a cluster of high-intensity magnesium flares. The Russian guards, blinded by the sudden thermal bloom, shift their machine gun fire toward the bright decoys, allowing the primary swarm to slip through the gap just inches above the water. The first barrier is down, but the math of the river is only getting deadlier. 5-10 hours. The drones are now 1.8 miles from the objective, and the thermal display in the Ukrainian command center suddenly pulses red. This isn't the S-400. That $500 million giant is useless against a target skimming the river. The real threat is a TOR-M2U mobile surface-to-air missile system, a tactical buzzsaw recently deployed to the Belgorod border specifically to hunt low-altitude intruders. The TOR-M2U's radar achieves a laser paint lock, and a 9M338 missile erupts from its vertical launch tube. It covers the distance in seconds, detonating in a proximity burst just 50 feet from the formation. The resulting shockwave, a wall of compressed air, rattles the 220-pound airframes, nearly flipping them into the freezing water. In the bunker, the operator fights the controls as the telemetry flickers, the drone's sensors struggling to stabilize after the massive pressure spike. Simultaneously, the shore comes alive with Zu-23 2 twin-barrel 23mm autocannons mounted on trucks. They are firing blindly into the mist, their high-explosive shells shredding the decoy nets in a spray of tracers. Intercepted Russian radio traffic is a chaotic scream. Targets skimming the water. Switch to anti-low altitude mode. Transition to thermal and optical tracking. The TOR system shifts its logic, desperately searching for the fiber-optic ghosts in the infrared spectrum. It is a battle of sensors versus stealth. The Russian operators are adapting, abandoning their long-range radar to focus on the immediate, low-altitude, soft signatures. The billion-dollar defensive wall is closing its teeth, but the real strike is already unrolling from the shadows. The math for the final 3,000 yards is a race between Russian reflexes and Ukrainian engineering. 5-12 hours. This is where we decode the secret behind the Phantom Fiber Swarm, a tactical masterclass that is currently making Russia's multi-billion-dollar electronic warfare suite look like a collection of expensive paperweights. Think of the fiber-optic cable as an invisible leash. To the Russian sensors, they see the drone, but they cannot cut the brain of the operator away from the machine. It is like trying to win a tug-of-war against a demon you can't even touch. While the Russian military is shouting into the airwaves with everything they've got, the Ukrainian drones are operating in river ghost mode. They aren't just flying, They are using real-time American satellite intelligence and an onboard AI suite to predict exactly where the TOR-M2U units are repositioning. The drones zigzag with surgical precision, utilizing every bend in the Grafovka Reservoir and the natural radar shadows created by the river's steep banks. They are exploiting a basic law of physics. Radar travels in straight lines, but the Seim River is a jagged, winding trench. The Russian commanders, realizing their TOR systems are struggling to maintain a lock through the dense fog and ground clutter, escalate the situation. They authorize the activation of a Buk-M3 battery, Russia's premier medium-range interceptor. To compensate for the low altitude of the targets, the Russian operators do something desperate. They physically lower the radar masts and tilt the arrays toward the water surface, a move that risks damaging the sensitive hardware against the terrain. A 9M317M missile erupts from the Buk-M3, screaming toward the swarm at Mach 4. The Ukrainian AI detects the incoming threat and executes a high-G water skimming maneuver, dropping the drones to just 5 feet above the surface. The missile, unable to adjust its flight path in the dense, freezing air, impacts the water 100 feet behind the lead drone. The resulting explosion is a lesson in fluid dynamics. It sends a massive column of frozen water and ice 150 feet into the air, creating a wall of liquid shrapnel. The shockwave rattles the drones, but because they are connected by their physical nervous system of glass, they don't lose a single frame of data. In the Kyiv bunker, the operator watches the massive spray clear and mutters, "They are firing a storm," but the backup is ready. The Russians are pouring millions of dollars into the river, trying to stop a ghost that is already at their doorstep. The math of the defense is failing, and the flood is only 2,000 yards away. 15 hours. The tactical situation at the Grafovka Reservoir has reached a state of cascade failure. The mission is no longer just a flight, it is a battle of attrition against a hostile environment and a desperate enemy. The first problem is the Siberian air itself. At -14 degrees Fahrenheit, the density of the frozen fog has created a massive thermal refractive error. The lead drone's infrared sensors are experiencing a 5.1 degree Fahrenheit temperature drift, causing the heat signature of the dam's hydraulic machinery to look like a blurry, unrecognizable smudge. It's like trying to find a specific keyhole while looking through a frosted glass window that's vibrating at 120 miles per hour. As the swarm rounds a tight bend in the river, the lead drone, the one carrying the primary high-definition feed, slams into a high-tensile steel cable strung just 8 feet above the water by the Rosgvardia infantry. The 220-pound airframe is instantly decapitated, its fiber-optic spool snapping with a sound like a whip crack. In the Kyiv bunker, the primary monitor instantly dissolves into the black screen of death. The mission commander's heart rate spikes to 140 beats per minute as the alarm screams through the room. But the Russians aren't waiting for the Ukrainians to recover. The TOR-M2U and the truck-mounted ZU-23, two autocannons, have established a nested kill zone. The TOR radar provides the long-range tracking data, which is fed directly into the ZU-23-2's optical sights. They are no longer firing blindly, they are creating a focused curtain of 23mm high-explosive shells. A shell fragment from a near miss tears through the wing of the second drone, causing a violent vibration that threatens to shake the internal gyro stabilizers to pieces. The third drone in the formation isn't just a backup, it is a dedicated relay carrier with its own independent fiber-optic spool. Sensing the loss of Unit 1 and the damage to Unit 2, the onboard AI executes a swarm handover. It is a software handoff that would make a Silicon Valley server cluster look slow. In less than 150 milliseconds, the command link from the bunker is rerouted through the third drone's glass tether, which then transmits short-range, jam-proof radio bursts to the remaining strike units. To provide the final opening, the mission commander authorizes the sacrifice of a fourth, smaller FPV kamikaze drone. This unit doesn't head for the dam, it turns toward the shore, diving directly into the muzzle flashes of the ZU-23-2 autocannons. The resulting explosion doesn't destroy the truck, but it sends a massive spray of shrapnel and frozen mud across the Russian infantry's position, forcing the operators to dive for cover. The math of the defense just broke. The Russian TOR-M2U loses its target lock for exactly 12 seconds as its sensors struggle to filter out the smoke and debris from the kamikaze strike. It is a 12-second window of absolute tactical opportunity. The Ukrainian operator sees it, pushing the surviving drones into a final high-speed dash, toward the auxiliary transformer yard and the primary sluice gate mechanisms. The Russian steel wall has a 12-second hole in it, and the phantom fiber is already through. The hunters are no longer dodging fire. They are lining up the kill shot. 5:17 hours. The terminal 9 seconds of the Grafovka operation begin with a panoramic view of Russia's logistical nightmare. Through the high-definition fiber-optic feed, the dam's sluice gates look like massive silver teeth under the white glare of Russian searchlights. On the shoreline, the remaining infantry are pouring everything they have into the sky. A chaotic curtain of tracer fire that looks like angry fireflies on the screen. A single 7.62mm round clips the drone's secondary winglet, tearing through the carbon fiber, but the operator's hands are steady. 5:19 hours. The Ukrainian operator squeezes the trigger, and the drone lurches upward, suddenly lightening, as if the weight of 3 school buses has been lifted off its frame. The specialized Penetrator bomb is away. This isn't a Hollywood fireball, it is a masterclass in kinetic and hydraulic destruction. The bomb impacts the primary lift mechanism at a closure rate of 320 miles per hour. Its 220-pound warhead doesn't just explode, it converts its massive kinetic energy into a focused jet that treats 6 inches of high-tensile Russian steel like it was made of aluminum foil. The initial shockwave generates a pressure spike that shears the hydraulic bolts and vaporizes the control pistons. Then, the physics of the water take over. With the gates destroyed, the reservoir's internal pressure, millions of tons of water, treats the structural damage as an invitation. The gates are ripped from their hinges and a massive churning wall of frozen water erupts through the gap. It is like opening a high-pressure fire hydrant the size of a city block. The results are catastrophic for the Russian military. Within 18 hours, the river level rises 3.8 feet, turning the ultra-modern Russian Naval Command Center into an accidental swimming pool. Banhop, armored vehicles, and expensive radar consoles are instantly submerged in a torrent of freezing mud and ice. It is a total logistical decapitation. The 3 Russian brigades near Vovchansk are now physically cut off from their supply lines, their primary river crossings turned into a raging waterfall. The towns of Shebekino and Bezludovka are forced into an emergency evacuation as the safe zone becomes a flood zone. The economics of the day are a bitter pill for the Kremlin. A few drones worth $18,000 have neutralized a multi-million-dollar command hub and paralyzed 3 frontline combat brigades. Russia thought they could use the Grafovka Reservoir as a shield. Ukraine just turned it into a weapon. They didn't need a massive naval fleet to destroy the Russian Naval Command, they just needed one operator with a remote and the audacity to pull the plug. The strategic takeaway is clear. Never underestimate a nation that knows how to turn a river into a high-speed highway and a dam into a tactical hammer. While the Russian commanders are currently looking for life jackets and trying to save their paperwork from the rising tide, Ukraine is already preparing for the next delivery. The floodgates are open and the water is flowing exactly where it was always meant to go, straight into Putin's ego. What do you think? Was this the ultimate checkmate for Russian river logistics, or is the Russian Naval Command just preparing for its new role as a synchronized swimming team? Hit that like button and subscribe if you want to see which Russian fortress becomes a water park next. Bye for now.